everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here, and today I'd like to do a reaction video, another reaction video on the second interview that I had with Kurt Marnul, which I posted recently. Of course, Kurt Marnul being Arnold's first trainer, where he detailed Arnold's first training program and stated that Arnold's first ever steroid cycle was at the age of 15, which I found the most controversial statement of all the things that Kurt had to say in our interviews. From the second interview I had with Kurt, Kurt also claims that Arnold's first cycle consisted of weekly durabolin injections and dianabol tablets taken daily, 3 to be precise, and that these were received by Arnold at the age of 15. Now, I established in my previous video that the aforementioned cycle was most likely accurate as these compounds were available. Now, knowing that Arnold was born on July 30th, 1947, we need to use this as a reference point. July 30th, 1947. This would place the year of Arnold's first steroid cycle from August onwards between the autumn of the year 1962, or more likely, at least in my own personal opinion, the first half of 1963. The question really is this statement from Kurt true or not? That really is the question. Well, again, to address this particular statement from Kurt Marnul, one has to look at what has already been written about Arnold's age when he first took steroids in the several biographies written about him, as well as the photographic evidence that exists in books and magazines and galleries. As mentioned, many things have been stated about Arnold's age in regards to his first steroid cycle, with the most outlandish statement coming from Wendy Lay's Arnold, an unauthorized biography, where she wrote that Arnold told Rick Wayne that his first cycle was at the age of 13 years of age. Now, when this book came out, Arnold actually sued Wendy for defamation, so it is really hard to believe anything that was written in this book. Secondly, when we reflect on this statement alone, I just ask myself, what kind of an adult, and I'm talking about Kurt here, in their right mind would administer steroids to a young 13-year-old? To me, this statement from Wendy's book just does not make any sense whatsoever. Such a person would have to be completely irresponsible to do so. And, I think Randy Roach, also who's a very acclaimed bodybuilding historian, also had the same opinion in his book Muscle, Smoke and Mirrors. I think it's in volume 2. Similarly, I spoke to Danny Padilla about this recently, and Danny knew Arnold pretty well, and this is what he had to say about Wendy's statement.
If I look online, people will say, for example, Arnold started when he was 13, which I think is ridiculous. But your story right now...
I don't believe.
Sorry?
I don't believe that. I don't know who said that, but that's not true.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous.
Arnold never started at 13. That's BS.
Yeah,
Whoever said that, I think he's making it up.
Yeah, of course.
I know Arnold never said that, and I don't believe he ever did.
Yeah.
That's BS.
Now, in both of Arnold's biographies, Arnold, the Education of a Bodybuilder and Total Recall, we learn that Arnold first visited the Graz Athletic Union with his soccer team after having played for about 5 years in soccer, and the year was now about late 1960. He was just 13 years of age, and his introduction to weight training was made then. His soccer coach required that the team practice weight resistance movements for the legs alone because they were playing soccer. So I highly doubt that this soccer coach needed his players to weigh 250 pounds whilst running on the soccer pitch with 50-inch chests and 20-inch biceps. So reflecting on all these considerations, I definitely don't believe this statement from Wendy Lay's book at all. In that Arnold's first cycle was at the age of 13. I think that's just preposterous. And the images of Arnold around that age also show that he definitely wasn't taking steroids at that age. That's just ridiculous. It is well known, though, that Arnold was bit by the iron bug during his early teens, and in the summer of 1961, at the age of 14, he began training calisthenics at the Arnolds with Kurt Marnul and the Graz Athletic Union club members, as all these photos show, in what would be Arnold's true introduction to bodybuilding prior to joining the club later that year. Many photos exist, of course, and one can see his transformation and fast progress he made with calisthenics doing chin-ups and push-ups at the lake. Apparently they also brought weights along, so he was able to develop his arms and do all these other exercises. The effect you can see clearly on his chest and arms is very, very obvious, and I'm sure this is why Kurt saw the potential that Arnold had to be a real bodybuilding star. If Kurt was right and Arnold received his first steroid injection at the age of 15, that would place the year at either late 1962 or the first half of 1963, as I mentioned earlier. Now, this statement is entirely possible. However, the statement by Kurt Marnul of Arnold having his first steroid injection at the age of 15 is inconsistent with what Arnold has said in the past in his own biographies. Looking at Arnold's autobiography, Total Recall, Arnold states that he first began taking steroids in late 1966 at the age of 19 after his first Mr. Universe attempt in the 1966 NABBA Mr. Universe, where he was beaten by Chet Yorton, which I have to admit I find hard to believe, and I will explain why in a minute. Finally, another very interesting 2005 biography called Fantastic: The Life of Arnold Schwarzenegger, written by Lawrence Lima, states differently. Now, the author here, Lawrence Lima, actually interviewed Arnold when he wrote this biography, and therefore Arnold actually approved of this biography written about him, and that's very important to keep in mind. In this biography, Lawrence, in an interview with Kurt Marnul, states that Kurt Marnul gave Arnold his first steroid injection at the age of 15, at least according to Randy Roach, which is consistent with what Kurt told me. Again, in regards to Arnold's first training program and steroid cycle, I believe that Kurt is telling the truth. And again, he has no reason to lie. He was present when these things happened, when these things occurred, and not only that, most of what he has stated has already been confirmed by other biographies and interviews given over the years. And if Arnold approved of the biography written by Lawrence Lima, that is Fantastic: The Life of Arnold Schwarzenegger, then he has no issue with Kurt Marnul stating that Kurt administered Arnold's first steroid cycle at the age of 15. So far, it appears that perhaps Kurt Marnul was telling the truth. Finally, if we look at the photographic evidence that exists, we can confirm Arnold's age being 15 or at the latest 16 years of age when he first took steroids. Having access to my extensive magazine collection in galleries as well in Austria and in Munich, which I've contacted over the recent weeks and months, I've been able to compile a series of photographs chronologically showing Arnold's physical transformation over the early part of his years. We have already seen the early transformation that Arnold achieved between the ages of 14 and 15 by training at the Arnolds with the members of the Graz Athletic Union. Now, if we see the first photos of Arnold training at the age of 15 in the club, and later when he just turned 16, we can now see Arnold being much more developed. Arnold's development progressed so fast that he was able to compete in the Austrian National Championships, where he was awarded the Junior Mr. Austria, at least according to Albert Busek, on April the 26th of 1964, which would have placed Arnold at the age of 16, 3 months before his 17th birthday. Now, from these photos, we can see a much more developed Arnold, especially in the most muscular pose. His chest is way more massive and striated, and his trademark biceps, you can clearly see that, he's well defined and cut, so much so that we can see his trademark thick vein already well developed in his bicep. Now, for most of us that understand the effects of steroid usage, it is well established that both definition and vascularity increases along with muscle size on a steroid cycle. His next competition and second win was the Mr. Steiermark competition on May the 18th, 1965, 5 months before his famous Junior Mr. Europe win on October of 1965 when he went AWOL from his obligatory military service. These photos, which I was able to obtain from an Austrian historical archive taken by Photo Fischer, clearly show the transformation, the further transformation that Arnold achieved and was able to make within a year after his first competition in April of 1964. Arnold looks massive, weighing well over 200 pounds in my estimate. You know, he's 200 pounds at least of muscle. His chest is massive, more like 220 at least. His chest is massive and striated. His arms are also well developed, biceps and veins bursting through the skin, right? His back and legs are also well developed and bulky, but not showing the muscular separation and definition he would show later on. Again, doing a side-by-side comparison of these photos, it is very clear to see the impressive transformation Arnold had between the ages of 15, when he started just training at the Graz Athletic Union, 16 years of age, and then his transformation another year later at the age of 17. So yeah, I think these photos definitely confirm what Kurt Marnul stated, and that he did give Arnold his first injection at the age of 15, and I actually believe it was probably 1 year after Arnold had already done some basic training at the Graz Athletic Union, so most likely when Arnold was already late into his 15th year, going towards his 16th year of age. The photographic evidence leads one to this conclusion, and as I said earlier, the biography written by Lawrence Lima, Fantastic: The Life of Arnold Schwarzenegger, further confirms this statement by Kurt Marnul. If you want further evidence, Arnold only just gets bigger after that, as he develops further to win the Junior Mr. Euro competition in 1965, where he of course met Franco Colombo and they developed a lifetime friendship. And then the best developed athlete in Europe, aka the Senior Mr. Europe, in 1966. He just gets more massive by the years and by the month. And then he got even more massive when he challenged Chet Yorton in the 1966 Mr. Universe competition, which he of course lost. Having said that, I don't think Arnold was being 100% honest when he wrote in Total Recall that his first cycle was at the age of 19 after his first loss to Chet Yorton in his first ever NABBA Mr. Universe competition. Arnold was already huge and massive and likely on gear, and this is also confirmed by his good friend and training partner Jerry Branham in an interview we recently had.
So in fact, the story is that, again, I can't verify this, but the story was that Arnold, of course, began training in Austria. He used to go down to a lake, and sometimes they'd lift weights right by the side of the lake.
Yeah, Tallersee.
Yeah, exactly. And he met some guy, I can't remember the guy's name.
Kurt Marnul.
It might be Kurt Marnul, yeah. This is the guy who turned him on to steroids.
Yeah.
And Arnold at the time, I believe, was 15 years old, if I remember.
Something like that, yeah.
And if you look at photos of Arnold, if you look at him when he was 15, and then you look at him at about a year or two later at 17, he was winning the Junior Europe, and his arms looked like 3 times the size. And from what I understand, the original drug was just Dianabol. Yeah. He wasn't even but he took a lot of it. I mean, the guy, whoever told him, he was actually taking a large amount of Dianabol, and he responded very well because, of course, Arnold was genetically gifted too. Yeah. I mean, the changes, if you look at it, the pictures, the early photos, the progression in the size was amazing. By the time he got to the NABBA universe, he was huge. This was only a space of just a couple of years, 3, 4 years maybe,
Now, to conclude this video, I do want to address why I think Arnold would have said that he took his first cycle when he was 19 under a doctor's supervision. I'm not calling Arnold a liar. To me, he's still my idol. He's still, to me, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. And I don't think we should judge him negatively in this respect. he has at least been honest over the years and come out several times and admitted his steroid usage. Instead, I believe Arnold, like many other golden era legends like Dave Draper, Frank Zane, and Bill Pearl, may be downplaying their steroid usage and age at which they first used these substances to prevent young kids from entering into this drug culture. And I applaud this move, basically. I think it's the right thing to do. In many ways, this is the way the older generation of bodybuilders would try and restrict the use of steroids in young teens by simply restricting information, or by saying what we use, or by saying what we used to actually still say and still call white lies. These are lies that do more benefit than harm and are said to prevent mishappenings. The golden era legends would say such white lies to instead promote a healthy lifestyle. So in this regard, I commend what they have said to prevent kids from taking drugs. And I think this is very important to point out, because nowadays there are many channels that just recommend cycles and steroids like as if they were candy, SARMs, etc., and God knows what else, and they don't consider the side effects of such practices, and if they do, they downplay them. And saying that this video only serves as a historical account and to catalog the transformation of Arnold from drug-free to drug-using athlete. Because me personally, as a natural and other naturals, I think it's important to understand the difference between an enhanced physique and a natural physique, and photos help with this kind of assessment. And it is important to also understand that such physiques, when you understand what can be achieved with steroids and what can be achieved with naturals, it's very important to understand that such enhanced physiques are unrealistic for the natural bodybuilder. Also, it is important to consider that Total Recall was written during Arnold's time serving as governor of California and published in 2012, a year after his term as the governator was over in 2011. This, of course, may have influenced or tarnished his reputation. So with this consideration, one could also excuse Arnold from twisting the truth slightly. Remember also that prior, Arnold had served as the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, so his reputation could have also been tarnished if he openly spoke out about his first steroid cycle being at late 15 years of age or his early 16th year of age. So that is my extensive analysis and reaction to Kurt's statement of Arnold taking his first steroid cycle at the age of 15. Do I believe him? My opinion is that Kurt is likely telling the truth, or that at worst, he is slightly off by a few months, and Arnold may have started his first cycle by the age of 16 at the latest. So I do hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and please leave me your comments. Do you believe Kurt Marnul's statements? What is your opinion? Could Arnold have really started his first cycle at 15 or 16? Let me know in the comment section. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. That's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Arnold's steroid programs, please visit my website www.goldenerabookworm.com, where you will find his little book of steroids written by John Ballack, who was Arnold's seminar nutritionist. The small book is a complete discussion into the golden era steroid programs, and specifically how Arnold Schwarzenegger cycled his steroids during the golden era, and is now finally available 50 years after it was originally published at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, if you're interested in learning Arnold's original bodybuilding training and nutrition principles, please visit my website for a full collection of booklets, including his arms and chest training programs, available at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Need a bodybuilding poster for your gym or office? Then check out Iron Man Magazine archive.smugmug.com for the highest quality posters on the planet. Scroll through the galleries of all the legends, including greats such as Arnold, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, Serge Nubret, Tom Platz, and Larry Scott, and much, much more, and select your poster now. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these 3 books I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles. But how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises. And believe me, it's a brilliant, brilliant program. Many people have used it. I know personally a lot of bodybuilders that have actually used it and made fantastic results with it. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these three books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, the Pro Series of Bodybuilding, which was targeted for professional bodybuilders, contains 6 programs, each of which go for 2 months each. So it's a whole year, again, in preparation for competition. To support your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/stores/goldenerabookworm for merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again, at teespring.com/stores/goldenerabookworm. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/goldenerabookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. To take full advantage of my collaborations, use code GEB20 with nspnutrition.com and vincegironda.com, as well as code bookworm12 at osl.com for a discount at checkout.